This is the reason why they overthrow. Kwame Nkrumah, the only person who wanted to make Africa one country. The downfall of Kwame Nkrumah. Nkrumah's stronghold on power, his bitter rivalry with the Asantes and other groups, and the controversial laws that he had passed jailing some of his political rivals, made him a target for violence, symbolically and physically. During his presidency, an Asante man had threatened violence against the construction of a new statue of Nkrumah in Kumasi in 1957, while his Accra statue was actually bombed in 1961. There were also several unsuccessful assassination attempts against Nkrumah himself. In dark days in Ghana, Nkrumah recalled that members of the police and special branch have been involved in each of the 6 attacks made on my life, and have frequently ignored, and sometimes aided, the activities of people they knew were plotting to overthrow the government. One such assassination attempt occurred 9 months after the bombing of his statue in Accra on August 1, 1962. According to Nkrumah and Milne, a grenade attack orchestrated by leading police officers in collusion with Emmanuel Obetsibi, one of the ringleaders in the plot to kill me, was made on Nkrumah's life in Kulangugu in northeastern Ghana. During this unsuccessful attack, several people lost their lives, including a child, and 55 people were injured. 2 other attempts on and conspiratorial plots against Nkrumah's life and coup schemes were carried out, beginning with the bombing of his residence on November 10, 1955, attributed to NLM supporters. In 1958, pinned to various opposition party officials, including J.B. Dankwa, Reginald Reynolds Amponsa, Modesto Apelu, Joe Apaya, Kofi Bija, and Victor Ousu. And on January 1, 1964, when a policeman stationed at Flagstaff House fired 4 shots at the president, but missed. The various assassination attempts gave Nkrumah the motive to arrest his political opponents. Among those arrested were Minister of Presidential Affairs Toya Adamafio, Foreign Minister Ako Ajay, a member of the Big Six, and Executive Secretary of the CPP Coffee Crab. In October 1962, Obetsibi Lamptey, a Ga lawyer, and Politi Sheen was arrested and jailed under the PDA in the condemned section special block of Nsawam prison by the CPP government. He died in detention in January 1963, as did Dankwa in 1965, who had also been arrested. But Nkrumah's luck would not last forever, and his enemies would not be unsuccessful for long. Already having several motives to assassinate or remove him from power, they just needed an opportunity to strike at the president. On February 24, 1966, the NLC launched Operation Cold Chop, the military coup d'etat that toppled Nkrumah's government. In addition to charges of corruption, mismanagement of state resources, and the violation of human rights, the construction of statues of Kwame Nkrumah and the placement of his likeness on the national currency and stamps provided evidence to the army and police that Nkrumah had become Ghana's dictator for life. In the rebirth of Ghana, the end of tyranny, the NLC National Liberation Council declared the Ghana Armed Forces, in cooperation with the police, took over the government of Ghana on February 24, 1966. The first announcement of the takeover was made over Radio Ghana by Colonel Ike Katoka, the person who was named after an airport by Kwame Nkrumah of the 2nd Infantry Brigade, who told the nation that Kwame Nkrumah had been dismissed from office and that the myth surrounding him had been broken. The intervention of the armed forces and the police means the death of tyranny in Ghana. The people of Ghana have been freed from the great burden which was imposed on them by the corrupt government of Kwame Nkrumah. Ghanaians in all walks of life were denied their fundamental human rights, subjected to arbitrary rule, injustice, and undemocratic practices of a so-called People's Party, which in effect was a one-man party backed by unscrupulous hirelings and hangers. We in Ghana have taken our destiny into our own hands, and under the liberating might of the armed forces and the police, we have broken once and for all times the tyranny of Kwame Nkrumah. Although the coup was a result of internal frustrations with and opposition to the Nkrumah regime, There were also external factors that contributed to his downfall, most notably the Cold War climate, the Cold War, and the coup. Exactly 1 month after the coup was staged, NLC National Liberation Council Chairman Major General J.A. Ankara wrote a very telling letter to U.S. President. February 24, 1966, is regarded by many Ghanaians as the Waterloo in the history of Ghana, and Ghanaians would not like it to be mentioned so as to rekindle old wounds considering the hardships the country went through from that period until accepting democratic rule in the early 1990s. On that fateful day, the First Republic of Ghana was overthrown in a military coup d'etat when the first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was on a peacemaking mission in Vietnam. Most Ghanaians and Africans continue to point accusing fingers at the United States for this unfortunate incident that brought not only the newly born nation to the brink of collapse, but also brought the dream of a united Africa into jeopardy. Ghana was the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to gain independence, and the two superpowers that emerged after the Second World War, the United States and the Soviet Union, and later the People's Republic of China, endeavored to have positive relations with Ghana in order to implant their ideologies not only in Ghana, but in the African continent at large. Ghana after independence soon became a Cold War battleground in the propaganda warfare between the East and the West. In order to stand aside from the Cold War, the government of Ghana from the first days of independence took a non-aligned stand and promised to establish good relations with all countries of the world, irrespective of the political systems of their governments. Some of the policies and actions taken later by the Ghanaian government were translated by the United States to mean that Ghana had moved from its entrenched, non-aligned stand to the Soviet bloc. The perceived defection created a gulf between Ghana and the United States. The tension between the two nations and unrest at home became more tense and fraught with grave complications and was culminated in a coup d'etat that eventually toppled Nkrumah's administration.